almost there. No way. What is this? You're tuned in to the Eyes Open podcast, where secrets aren't safe and we see it all.
Well, it's the beginning of another month. Here we are, May 1st. And what a great start to the month. Great start. You know you're doing something right, because I guess the third time's a charm now, isn't it? So 3 times now, banned from TikTok. And honestly, the way I look at it is this. If somebody can tell me, okay, please explain to me when speaking about things that aren't even really that controversial when you think about it. I see way farther, controversial stuff online on TikTok all over the place. But really, I even formed a lot of what I was saying for entertainment purposes. So even if it's entertainment, all right, if I'm just an actor playing a role and, doing a conspiracy podcast that's just simply for entertainment, even that's too controversial for them. Even when you're making a clear disclaimer that it's for entertainment purposes only. So that proves no matter what, they're going to hold you back. Every platform right now is trying to hold me back as much as they can. And I take that as a badge of honor. See, a lot of people will complain about it. They'll be like, this is not fair. This is bullshit. This is, and honestly, like Tommy Truthful had told me, it is fraud though. Because if I'm bringing money to your platform, if I'm keeping ad spend going on your platform and you're taking from me something that's owed to me that you're taking, you're that's not only just fraud, it's fraud by trick. These people that do this shit should be locked up. Because if we did something like that, if we perpetrated a scheme to defraud people, we'd be in prison. But they can seem to operate with impunity now, can't they? Because they got billions of dollars and they can do whatever they want. They set us up, and I understand it's their platform. They can do whatever they want on their platform. They're free to do that. But the fact that they bait everyone, they've baited all of us into believing that we're in some type of platform where we have, that free speech. And we really don't. They bait you in here. They make you think that when we all know really what Facebook and all these organizations were started from. I mean, DARPA started Lifelink or whatever it was. So it's all just intelligence programs that they started. There was that Asian scientist or whatever. He's a philosopher. I forget what he is, professor. And he was talking about how, the CIA created all this stuff. And there I go with the 3-letter agency again. The C word. Okay, the big C word around here. But yeah, they created these inventions for us. All the stuff you have around you, they created this technology. They're just not going to give it to you because, like he said, you wouldn't trust it if they gave it to you. Oh, he gave an analogy. He said, here's a computer. If the CIA gave you a computer, and there I go again. If the government gave you a computer and told you, here, go ahead and use this, it's a free computer, you're going to be like, no, I'm not using it because I know you're tracking me. But the Zuckman or anybody else gives you a platform to go download all your data on, to stay on, pretty much people doom scrolling on there all day long. People accept it because they think it's coming from a private citizen when the truth could not be any further from that. But before we get into today's show, I want to, as always, send a huge shout out to our sponsors over at Prima, joining the fight against fake food. This is one of the few companies I know that actually sells real food. And that's hard to see anymore. And that's another episode I have coming up here soon. It talked about the junk that's in our food. And that's what it really comes down to. You talk about any of these types of things, the food, the air quality, what they're doing to us with, pharmaceuticals. You mention any of these type of topics, that's when you catch those shadow bans. I noticed it. It's the certain ones you talk about, it becomes a problem. But over at Prima, they're not afraid to fight against garbage that they put out there. No seed oil, sweetened with real honey, best protein bars on the planet. Use our link that's in the comments, get 15% off. Definitely try them out. I love this company. Their support is awesome for the show, what they've been doing. And also like, comment, subscribe, share. That's how we fight against these corporations trying to keep us down. You want to know how we do it? Because I'm going to explain it to you. Even with me being shadow banned, my numbers were up in the thousands, okay? That's how I shot up past 100,000 followers. My numbers were way up there on videos, on everything, millions and millions of views. The second I went over 100,000 and started creeping up into the hundreds of thousands, I think it was, I remember it was around 120 something thousand. I noticed them start peeling me back. Because they know your voice is getting too big, and they're like, wait a second here. If you think they ain't watching you, they're watching you. Especially people like me. They're watching what you're saying. And they're like, wait a second. This guy's a loose cannon. We don't know what he's liable to say next. And one of the big one is this. If you guys haven't watched lately with the whole Moon Henry and fittest flat earther beef, by the way, I stand with Moon Henry. He actually speaks on scripture. I got respect for that guy. A lot of the stuff he puts out there. Fittest flat earther is a complete fraud. I can't stand that guy. But he was saying, I seen a video Moon Henry dropped the other day where he was talking about the fittest flat earther won't talk about Jesus because he knows that they don't push that type of content out. And that's probably a lot of reason they strike me too. It's not just the other stuff I talk about, but I talk about how people's only hope is in Jesus Christ. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, you know, I'm sorry to tell you, but you have no idea where you're going to be spending eternity if you don't have a relationship with him. And I hate to be the fire and brimstone guy, but it's the truth. If I know something to be the truth, I'm going to tell you, especially if it's going to harm you. I'm not going to sugarcoat the shit. Okay, period. It's like you walking on railroad tracks. I like to use this analogy a lot. If you're just walking on railroad tracks and say you didn't know any better, all right, that a train's coming, I'm going to warn you. There's a train coming. You're going to get hit. You're going to end up unalived. Get off the tracks. Okay? If I know in my heart and in my soul that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, he is God in the flesh, who came, died, resurrected, and lives within us. If I didn't know that to be true, felt it for myself, have been through it, I wouldn't be preaching it. Okay? I would not. I'm not one of those people. I'm one of the less likely people you'd ever think would be out there preaching God's word. Even when I felt like I was, put in the position to do it, I still even had my battles with God saying, why me? Why would you want to use me? And the more I read the Bible, the more I realized, wow, a lot of these people in the Bible were not the greatest people. They weren't the most qualified, but God chooses who he chooses. So once I realized that, and then I looked into the fact that I come from a long line of ministers, I was like, I guess, it's my generational duty in a sense to carry that on. So if that's my torch to carry, I guess, it's up to me to do it. And it's not just that, but people's souls are on the line. Because there is things going on all around you every day that you do not see at all. And that's one of the big reasons for today's episode. So for those that don't know what May 1st actually stands for, it's very, very spiritually, very, very spiritually electrified this day. And people don't know it. Maybe some people can feel it that have discernment, but you need to understand the importance of this day. So it starts in a bunch of different directions, okay? if you want to look at it this way, the origin of, you look into even the origin of the name May, okay? It comes from the goddess, the Greek goddess Maya or Maya. And what that is she's the goddess of fertility, but also the goddess of the hunt. So people need to realize at this time of year, this is where, you know, it's representing an awakening in a sense. And then the people who celebrate holidays like it's the biggest occultic holiday of the year other than Halloween. And people don't realize that. People don't talk about May Day at all. They don't talk about it. And if you notice, you just have to go back and look at how many big things happened on May 1st in history. And from the forming of the Illuminati on May 1st of 1776. So there you go. 250 years today, the Illuminati was formulated. And see, I believe that we're going to see something big today. There will be something big today in the world that goes on. I just have that feeling. Because it would make a lot of sense with the 250th anniversary of the Illuminati. So you have a 7 right there in numerology, because 5 plus 2 is 7. And it's always that quarter of a century, okay, that stands very meaningful to them in a sense, that they want to stand there at, a quarter of a millennia. Because people will know, like the 4, okay, when things are split into 4s, north, south, east, west, the 4 corners, it stands for a lot of different things. The 4 for them, the 4th, and that's the 4th of the millennia is what that stands for. So 250 years ago today in Bavaria, Germany, the Illuminati was formed. And people don't see any weird correlation that the United States, we were formed 250 years ago, just months later. People and the Illuminati was essentially thrown out of Bavaria for trying to overthrow their government. And then all of a sudden, you know, what they were trying to do over in Germany is being seen in the beginning formation of our country. And people think that there's no coincidence that Masons, like when George Washington's seen in his Masonic garb, or when you look at Masonic imagery, you see an eye with 2 pillars, okay? And they don't understand, you know, you have a pyramid with an eye right on your money. It's right on your money. You have a pyramid with an eye, a truncated pyramid, and people really are blinded to what's going on. And then it goes to say, like, I've had people that'll say, well, you know, why would you study this being a Christian? You know, you shouldn't look into these things. How can you fight your enemy if you don't know how they're coming at you? The Bible says to be as wise as serpents. I've said this a million times. You have to know how your enemy is coming at you. So if you have to study these types of things, because when you look at it, it'll blow your mind. It'll absolutely blow your mind if you look at the type of occultic stuff they throw all around you. I'm talking from products that you buy down to advertising for companies. They throw it in everything. And like I said, they prove, it's almost like when they do it with the money, when they do it all these different things, they're proving how out of touch with reality, the real reality of the world, most people are, because they can put it right in front of your face and people still don't listen to it. People still don't take it seriously. Or they don't, or like I said, this piece of paper that they're spending every day, that they're looking at, they don't even stop and look at it and say, wait a second, this is ruling my life. Okay, without this, I can't survive in this matrix of a world that they've created for us. So something that important, nobody thinks to just sit back and study that, to look at that note. And think of it, it's called a Federal Reserve note. All right, what's a note that you know? A notebook, a note. Okay, you read a note. They even put it in the wording because people are not reading it. They're not reading into what it's really representing. But yeah, as far back as, Beltane is what they celebrate, but it goes into a lot of different occultic celebrations for May Day. May Day, and then think about it, it's meant to be emergency. They all got you thinking 9/11 is emergency. Everybody's like, oh, it's, today's 9/11 or whatever, and there's 911 and what that represents emergency. Well, what do pilots yell when they're going down or they're in distress? They're yelling Mayday. And how many times do they yell it? If you look it up, they say it 3 times. They say Mayday 3 times. So there's your numerology and why they do that. And if people really study about Mayday and about where the word, like I said, not just from the goddess that it comes from, but see, you're going to see now, being that we are in the age of the digital reset where everything's going to get reset and gone digital. We are right on the cusp of that. So that's why things like May Day are going to be even more important in this day and age, because at any moment, they're getting ready to flick that switch. Okay? At any moment. That's why this year, when they're looking at the goddess of the hunt, we are the hunted. The goddess of fertility, okay? That's growth. Something's fertile. Fertilizer. You see what I'm saying? They are planting what is going to sprout. Like people say, April showers brings May flowers. Well, the seeds they're planting, okay, are seeds of destruction. And people are going to see it inside this month of May. That's my prediction from what I'm seeing. And I don't have to be a fortune teller here to see the writing on the wall. And other people shouldn't either, as long as you're paying attention to what's going on. Because with Trump getting ready to sign the Clarity Act, banks, they say, are pushing back on it. But yeah, no, they're not. Banks are not pushing back on anything. When it all happens, they'll blame it on the banks. The government will come to bail everybody out, and then everybody will be so happy that, oh, wow, the government helped us all out and bailed us out. And what it'll be with are these stable coins. That's why all of these companies are launching stable coins. And for what people don't know what that is, a stable coin is a cryptocurrency that will stay stable. Okay, that's why it's called a stable coin. So a dollar will always be a dollar. And they set the system up like this. Okay, they set it up on purpose like this, because what's happening is they're debasing that own dollar that's in your pocket, because every day it's going down. And how is it going down? It's common sense, because of inflation. Everything is getting so expensive. A dollar does not buy you. Its buying power is decreasing every single day. And that's what I want you guys to understand, because that's why you have New World Order right on the back of your money. You have all that. They gave you a piece of paper to show you the map, the note. They're writing to you to let you know that they set you up for failure with that system. They knew what they were doing. But what's funny is, when they wreck everything, and when it does happen, they're going to play like, oh, shucks, we didn't know what we're doing. We're sorry about that. My bad. But it's like, no, you knew exactly what you were doing. And you did it on purpose. And their answer to it will be digital currency. And people are going to fall right in line. They're going to have no choice. Just like everybody says they're here to stand for freedom, until giving up those freedoms in order to survive and feed your family, because without it, literally, unless you live off the grid or can live off the land, you are slaves to the system. People are like, well, I'm not a slave. Well, stop going to work then. See what happens. Wake up each morning and stop going to work. And watch what happens. I recognized this whole BS rat race for what it was a long time ago. That's why when I was in my early 20s, I said, no, you know what? I'm going to literally run myself into the ground for like 10 years so I can get out of this rat race. And I did that. And when I finally retired in my early 30s, I thought that was it. You know, I bought the house I always wanted to live in. I got to go move out in the, you know, out in the sticks, away from people. Thought I got what I wanted. And it was fun for a little while. But I realized that's what's weird is God shifted me in this direction. I started building my studio and I just wanted to do this. Something told me that the people need the truth. They need it. And I got pushed in this direction. And I'm glad I did. Because, I mean, I started this podcast back in 19. So it's going on 7 years this year. And I did it because it was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed researching this stuff. My knowledge of conspiracies just from being around the intelligence community, I knew was enough to start a podcast. But when I really realized that, man, we are being censored more and more every day. And I noticed that the world's getting darker and darker. That's when I realized I was like, I have to get out here and tell the truth. I got to get out here and be one of the voices that's speaking up for the people. Because there's not many of us left. There just really isn't. But people need to realize that if you simply look into, and I've shown this for the people that are new to the channel, you have to go back and watch my older videos, but I've shown this, okay? It's in these rituals they do it these days. It's in the numbers. It's all around you. And I've made it my slogan for this show. I'm exposing darkness so that you might see the light. That's what it's all about. Because I want people to see if the dark exists and it's that dark, and the people that you guys elect into office that you watch on TV, if you can see that there's a sinister plot that's really going on, and this is all not just BS, then people start to wake up. What did I show the video the other day of what they had said is? They said we have a conspiracy crisis in this country. No, the crisis you guys have, not us, you people at the top got a crisis because the people are waking up. Okay, we're starting to see past all this stuff now. Something as innocent as Halloween, and people, you know, you feel free to celebrate whatever you want. This is the month of my birth, and I don't celebrate birthdays. They're Roman rituals, ancient Roman rituals. People would make cakes, they'd put candles on them, and people never even think about that. You put candles on a cake, shut the lights off, and chant, in a sense, and then you blow out candles. And what that comes from was in the ancient Romans, they blow out candles, and they believe the smoke would lead their wishes. Oh, make a wish. They would lead the smoke would lead your wish up to the gods. So when I started doing research about a lot of this stuff, I don't celebrate no holidays. For the people that know me or been on my page long enough, they know I expose these holidays. I don't celebrate them. The only holiday that I celebrate is Resurrection Weekend. Oh, and the wildest thing about it too is the craziest time I've had in the longest time. I'm talking attacks like crazy were coming after me from Good Friday through that weekend. Was one of the worst times I've had for multiple different reasons. The attacks I had coming at me that whole weekend was insane. So it just shows the enemy is trying to stop me from doing what I'm doing, from exposing these types of things to you people. But I want you guys to know I'm not stopping. If I've said it time and time again, I don't care if there's 3 people watching or there's 3 million people watching. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. And they're not going to stop me. And in the end, good will win. And the way it wins is by the people who do follow the show, who are subscribers, who do share the videos to get the word out, and they're not going to be bullied by these people. What does it tell you when they're shadow banning, pulling my stuff down? I just shared how they stopped recommending my page because it was getting up there too much. And what's funny is my AI even said the fact that my page is still growing, even though I'm being in a sense shadow banned, is pretty wild. That shows that we will not be stopped. When the people move, we cannot be stopped. And that's what needs to happen. People need to forge forward. People need to be bold. And people need to research what's going on around them, because we're living in an illusion. An illusion that they control, an agenda that they push, and the world is only getting darker. We need to be, those of us that carry the light, need to be the light in the world for a lot of these people that are still lost. Because I'm sorry to tell you, but the truth is, I feel bad for the youth, because our days are only getting shorter on this planet. It's too dark of a world. There's too much going on. There's too much prophecy being fulfilled right in front of our eyes. So Jesus Christ is coming back sooner than a lot of people can realize. And God has about had it with these occultic rituals, these sacrifices they're doing, how they're trying to persecute his saints. God's not going to put up with it for too much longer. And like I said, people need to be ready for what's coming, because I know with the start of May 1st, it's going to be like the gun going off before the races. This is the start of it. May 1st of 2026, okay? 250 years after Illuminati, almost 250 years since this country was formed. That's why Trump's making such a big deal of it. Trust me, you guys are going to see the 250th anniversary of this country is going to mark the beginning of the New World Order and this agenda that they're going to push on all of us.